This is what New York is about, everybody. This is what we're about. Where'd she go with my megaphone? There you go. Como belongs in jail without bail. Amen to that. There are no safe vaccines. Every shot has toxic chemicals. That's right. Pharma is not my religion. Como is not my God. Amen.
Everybody loves suicide.
Healthy children deserve education. Give me my rights back. That's right. That's right. Thanks, guys. I'm trying to find, somebody has my megaphone. That girl has my megaphone. I don't know. Woo! Come on, everybody! I mean, come on! Come on!
I'll set aside some time to go to the Legislative Office building. Big building down there where all the legislators have their offices. That's on the other side of the security system. So go ahead and throw your signs and stuff back on the truck and go see your legislators. And that's pretty much going to be it for the day. Okay? So let's start heading on into the Capitol. Go up State Street and put your signs and stuff like that that aren't going to make it through security on Eric's truck. And we'll see you inside. What?
Ask if anybody got into his street.
I can't hear you.
Did anybody get into his street? Did anybody get into his street? Nobody did, right?
The Raleigh brothers from last night.
No, no one got in.
No one got in.
No one got in. We'll all be outside.
I need everybody's attention real quick. My name is Francesca Amato. I spoke before the New York State Assembly on November 21st. There's a second part to this. It's very important. If you don't have the full puzzle, you won't see the full picture, right? So I am from Punished for Protecting. I have 5 TV shows that you'll all be on today, from California to New York, Delta TV to PATV Long Island, Delta, California. Very important that you understand, very important, that without family court judges forcing orders on parents holding you in bondage, a system that was never voted in by the people, okay, that's treason. And I put Congress on notice, and I also put the New York State Assembly on notice on November 21st. Yes. So I have never been prouder of my fellow New Yorkers than I am today. We are a very fierce people. We are protective, loving parents, and we should not be in bondage to a system that's treason. Very important that we understand that the bar membership is also treason. If you look at Schwar versus Board of Examiners, the Supreme Court ruled a long time ago that there is no such thing as a licensed attorney. They are interpreters of their law, which is not lawful. This is urgent that you understand that we have to take down the family court. It has been running for over 5 decades, forcing parents to be ordered to vaccinate their children, to put their children in harm's way, to place children in foster care, forced adoption, and guess what? That is the child trafficking industry. Families and children are being trafficked every day in our country. New York State is number 5 in the country. Hudson Valley is number 1 in child trafficking by their own admittance. So please, please watch what I do at Punished for Protecting so you can help us help you fight this fight, and we are spreading this far and wide. We will win this. Amen.
Okay, head up State Street. Head up State Street, folks.
Whose is this?
Oh, yes. Here's the phone. It's still on live. You're still live.
I have no idea who that is.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, thank you guys. God bless.
Taylor, did you put it on?
John.
Thank you.
Please do, please do.
Yes.
You gotta hold it close.
Can I have that one? Can I see your sign? I need, can I get your sign? Constitutional rights may not be infringed.
Let's go with Danielle. We'll stick with them.
Thank you.
Lorelai.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Family court judge ordered me to sign an affidavit.
Yep.
Not an affidavit, sign a notarized statement to allow my ex to take both children to get vaccinated.
And that's, they didn't give you any informed consent, I'm sure, and they put you under duress to sign it, so that's
I was in duress, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You didn't sign it willingly.
I was told I would lose custody if I
Yes,
didn't sign it.
that's what they do. It's a threat. That's a threat, and that is absolutely unconstitutional and wrong, and that's what we're going after. So please get in touch with us. So the bigger we are, the bigger we can take them down. Hi.
happened to me. I had to force vaccinate my daughter.
Yeah, it's sickening. 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 We have to get rid of these family courts and these judges. They're not. It's
The court-appointed attorney came in like the Gestapo.
They
and
are.
made the appointment with my doctor, and I had I didn't even know what was happening.
And was there injury after, or you don't know yet, or?
She's 13. She had 8 shots in one day, and then 2 more a month later.
Yeah, they've done 13 in a day too. It's sickening. And it's actually, somebody had a sign up that said 69. It's actually 74 shots that they're forcing on children. It's disgusting. With aborted fetal matter being part of it. Aborted fetal matter. I mean,
So should I reach out?
please do. Yes, you can take a picture. Good. Yes. Yeah, just go to my website. I'm all over Facebook, on Twitter, and all that too. But my office is in New York. It's about an hour and a half south of here, but I do this nationwide, and I also do ADA violations, which is, American Disability Act. So you're welcome.
I'm not on social media, but
Okay.
But
If you take a picture of the sign, the website, you can use the.
okay, perfect.
You can get a hold of me that way. Say you saw us here. We do consultations, and then we go from there. And, oh yeah, but we're taking it down. And you want to see the New York State Assembly speech that I did? They gasped at the end. They didn't even know what to do with me. It was great.
Is that on YouTube?
I put them on. Yeah, it's Punished for Protecting YouTube. You'll see it on there. If you go to the New York State Assembly, you'll see it on there.
Took a picture of it?
Did you get a picture? Okay.
When did you speak before the assembly?
November 21st.
Okay.
November 21st. What's your name? Francesca Amato, and I'm about an hour and a half from here, but I do all over the nation. All over the nation. Hi, how are you? Hi, Liz. Nice to meet you.
Are you doing a live?
Yeah. You don't want me on? You don't want? Oh no, go for it. Doing well. Doing well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Shaking in our armor, but we're doing it. Oh, they're disgusting. First of all, how does it make you feel that it was never voted in by the people, so it's not supposed to be running in the first place? They usurped our authority in the first place, and they did this business. And in 1962, that's when the Family Court Act was first instated. But we never, and out of the state of New York, and then it went through the whole country. So we're the state that's going to take it down.
I have a friend who wrote the Franklin. My friend wrote the book about the child pedophile.
Oh yeah. I'm not sure about that one, but I will look that up for sure.
I'm a court watcher for the Coalition for Family Justice.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Good, so please say it. Oh, who is it? Monty? Dr. Monty?
Monica Getz.
Oh, I thought you said, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I did it once for her.
Definitely, please get in touch with us. So.
I've court watched in like maybe over 100
yeah. Just in New York or like all over? Or
in Manhattan, in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I've been in all of them. They're crazy. One more crazier than the next. I have I can't think of the judge's name, but the one in Staten Island that gave the full custody to the father, who's a felon, fugitive, Interpol, and they're protecting. Russia is actually protecting the child. Can you imagine that? So we became the communist country now, and Russia's protecting the children. Figure that one out. Blows my mind.
Yeah, no, it's really.
It's insane. It's insane. It's insane. Where's my team?
So, have a nice life.
Okay. Enjoy, guys. Thank you. Hey, Christian. Hi.
Nice to finally.
Look who's here, everybody! Wait, hold this camera right here. Hold this camera.
Do this
Look
a long time
who's here, everybody! Trisha! Oh my God! I'm so excited.
Long time no see, right? Finally. Yay.
How to get that? That's me.
Yeah, I know. We've been working on it.
I'm gonna name judges, but I have like 11 times.
Yeah, I know. It's all right. You got
Name. I wanted a name. Anthony McGinty, Judge Breslin in Herkimer County.
It's a good camera.
Judge Gruber in Kings County, Judge McGuire in Sullivan County. Let's just name them all. A bunch of frauds.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming. I'm super excited.
Let's keep filming. That's my son.
Yes, I introduced myself. He's wonderful. He's such a good kid.
So where do you live? Like,
it's Buffalo. We came from Buff.
good for you.
40 other people, and they know about a petitioner of monstrance. So
where are we going? That way? Where's my sign? Oh, okay.
It's called the Franklin Scandal.
My pocketbook and my sign, and I'm leaving it. That's
The Franklin Scandal.
the Franklin Scandal. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry, let me just grab that. Christian, help me, honey, grab that and just grab my pocketbook. You can grab the sign and I'll grab the pocketbook. How's that? All right, guys. Oh, thank you very much. Bye. Christian, grab the sign, honey. We'll be back. We'll be back, guys. We'll be back in a little bit. We'll keep you informed on everything, but we're kicking butt, New York.
Francesca Amato, the founder of the National Advocate, Punished for Protecting, Incorporated.
Well, first, I want to thank both of you, Assemblywomen Walker and Jaffe, for having this and for being so patient all these hours, listening to all of these experts and professionals and families. My name is Francesca Amato. I am here on behalf of countless New York families that I personally advocate for, who requested I speak on their behalf. Is that a little too loud?
That's perfect.
Okay. My son and I have also been victimized by the family court. As a national advocate, we realize now that this is the actual gateway door to the epidemic of human trafficking in which we are finally seeing exposed. If I get under your skin today, I am not sorry, as we all must have a moral compass and obligation to end this nightmare. I vehemently oppose this merger. I would be thrilled to see the courts be completely abolished. I will tell you with firsthand knowledge that the statistics through Health and Human Services' own admittance why. Punished for Protecting Incorporated is a New York State registered nonprofit 501c4. We are helping families nationwide through raising awareness on our TV and news programs and helping families injured by family court and CPS abuses. Our national advocates are trained in ACE, Adverse Childhood Experiences, Saunders, Myers, social science research that shows the long-term effects to children and families from being separated. The truth about PASS, parental alienation syndrome, false allegations, Stockholm syndrome, wrongful separation of biological family, families who are re-victimized due to abuse. This affects all races, all social and economic backgrounds, all, not poor only. I love all people, but this affects every color and every social economic background. We have families devastated by court orders after they become traumatized and bankrupt. We educate Congress, legislators, and public servants through college lectures and raising awareness through social media and my own TV and news programs. This includes teaching our real rights versus what has been told to the people in violation of civil liberties and parental rights. Punished for Protecting Incorporated spearheads many events for social reform, education, and overall change. I am a national advocate with specialty in ADA, American Disability Act, accommodations and violations, as well as a two-time best-selling author of the book Punished for Protecting the Injustice System of Family Court, my true story of the abuse my son and I endured at the hands of Judge Anthony McGinty of Ulster County Family Court. Deception. Those who are deceived are the last to know it. There is a huge disconnect from the judges to the families, and advocates bridge the gap of communication. Through this lack of communication, families too many to number have suffered lifelong trauma. This affects our communities, our state, and our nation. The head director of the Children's Home in Poughkeepsie, New York, did a slideshow presentation on November 13th at an event sponsored by Senator Serino that I attended and spoke at. She spoke and showed the statistics from the Polaris report, showing that 86% of sex-trafficked children are through foster care and social services. That's almost 90%. In the slideshow, it also showed that these children run from group homes due to abuse. A recent report by LOHUD notes that New York ranks 5th in the nation for human trafficking, with sex trafficking making up the majority of those crimes. The same story quotes the director of this Hudson Valley human trafficking program, who states clearly that human trafficking is occurring in every corner of every neighborhood in the Hudson Valley. Who is making these orders? Family court judges make these orders. We strongly feel that not only should the courts be abolished, but the family court judges should be arrested for treason under Title 18, Sections 241 and 242. It's all over the media, case after case of child murdered by foster parents, CPS workers falsifying records and even falsifying drug tests, and contracts with hospitals to medically kidnap children for requesting a second opinion. Why, you ask? Well, in 2009, according to a survey by the Leadership Council for Interpersonal Violence, over 58,000 children were given to abusers. If you wonder why there's such an opioid crisis, how would you feel if your child, young adult, or elder ripped from your safe and loving biological families was placed in danger and then placed on psychotropic drugs to silence their emotions? We must wake up. We have a fatherless nation of good fathers who love and support their children because the family court keeps them away, and all the while giving unfettered access to abusive fathers and restraining good mothers, supervising good mothers for telling the truth about abuse. Some fathers have never met their own children, but pay child support and live under false allegations while true abuse goes unchecked and victims are re-victimized. We now have where courts and CPS work together to separate loving families, mothers and fathers, with false allegations, which is a crime in every state, but goes ignored because it helps the narrative of stealing children and selling them into trafficking. A great fallacy is that an abductor comes into a Walmart and abducts a child. This is not true. They come from a court order rendered by a family court judge. This is why the child trafficking is being exposed at these unprecedented numbers, ripping families apart, placing children in danger, taking away a protective, loving parent, and keeping that parent from protecting their child causes all members of the family extreme trauma and PTSD. ADA violations are off the charts, and the courts are clueless about the accommodations for emotional disabilities that they caused by harming families at this level. As a national advocate, I court watch these judges all over our state and, yes, our nation. There is an appearance of a court with their evaluations, their bar members, their professionals. I have personally witnessed judges giving unfettered and full custody to abusers, never proceeding to the side of caution. Over and over, I have watched them harass and abuse protective parents when they report abuse. Many times, unlicensed medical bar members have stated that mother or father is coaching, and they remove that parent from the life of the child and place the child or children directly into the hands of the abuser. I have a full database of over 12 years of cases compiled with police reports, forensic medical reports that go ignored. 58,000 is not a clerical error. It's a direct, strategic, and sophisticated decision and the gateway door to child and family trafficking. The Hudson Valley, according to the human trafficking bill that Senator Serino is endorsing, is the highest concentration of trafficking in our state. I ask you again, who is making these orders? Only a family court judge can make these orders. CPS does not have this authority. But what makes these matters so much worse is this. Are you aware, and please look this up yourself, that according to Schwar versus Board of Examiners, there is no such thing as a licensed attorney in any state as per our Supreme Court. Assigned counsel and paid counsel is an interpreter of their law. The practice of law is a common right. If that is not bad enough, you will never find one place on the congressional record anywhere, state or federal, where the people voted in the family court or CPS. This is high treason. These errors of harming and endangering families to these outrageous amounts of missing children, exploited children, and trafficked children through this sophisticated multi-trillion-dollar industry must be abolished and the actors arrested at once. We can't fix this. We have to hold it accountable. A judicial system must be accountable to render orders and or make just decisions, and it can't when it's clearly not just itself. Why do these judges purposely place children with abusers? The reason is clear. Then CPS can step in and eventually filter them through services that we pay for, foster care that we pay for, and forced adoption, the black market of the adoption industry. Federal funding at its finest. Please look this up for yourself and get informed. We, the people, want this system abolished and held accountable for the years of abuses and irreparable and ignored damages to countless New York families and children. And in closing, let me say that the unified court system is already merged. This is why families have no way out. There is no accountability. The system polices itself. When you report to the Committee on Judicial Conduct, it never holds anyone accountable. Everyone claims to have no jurisdiction, and the reason is the family court is a private for-profit business with a Dun & Bradstreet business number. They claim to be public, but everything is done privately. You can't be both. There is no accountability because there are no evidence-based practices. No evidence is taken onto a real record. Hearsay is taken as fact. There is no due process and no trial by jury of one's peers as our rights demand. These crimes against humanity must be held accountable. There is no place for any family to get help, as the appellate courts hardly overturn anything unless it has huge public attention. Judicial immunity is a get-out-of-jail-free card and the highest danger to public integrity and safety. These judges do anything they want, no matter how imprudent these decisions are and how dangerous to these families and children their decisions are. The harm they have caused our families, there is no amount of money that can ever pay them back. There is no way possible that these judges have gotten all these harmed families' cases right, that less than 2% get overturned. As far as I'm concerned, the courts have already merged by the unified court system and must be held accountable through abolishment and arrest. Thank you.
It does sound like you have had some very negative experiences and understanding of what has been going on in the courts. The trauma that the children face, have you noted that? Is there any response to that and under these circumstances that you have noted?
So the difference between me and then the people that you have seen up here, especially the ones that work for CPS, or Sheila Poole, who the late Assemblyman Frank Spartatos actually wrote her several letters with me, working with him before he passed away for years that went unanswered, just to let you know. I work with countless families all over the state and the country, so I get to personally experience what they're living, and I get to personally get to know them. And I don't do it in a haphazard way. I really get to know the family and the dynamic and the suffering that they go through and the trauma and the ripping apart. When they talk about due process, having an attorney next to you, that people don't want that. They don't care that an attorney just walked in the door with them 5 seconds before, whether they paid for them or not. They care that the attorney doesn't care about them and works for the system, no matter what. And the cost is their children, their lives, their livelihood, their jobs, their houses, everything they worked for, their entire bank account. Whether they're rich or poor, they lose everything because they want to save their families and their children, all because of a false allegation. And I get to see that every day. So that's why I speak for the families. who didn't speak today. We heard what CPS wants to believe. We heard what CPS wants to tell people, the lies that they tell people. The judges, they're just in a box somewhere. They're not even in the reality of the real world, making and ordering and rendering decisions that families have to live by, ordered to live by, like some kind of slave in bondage. And it's not a way for any of us to live, especially in the 21st century. We should have got this right a long time ago. I've been speaking for a long time, and for me to have to be here today, I'm thankful and grateful for how far we've come, but this is disgusting that this goes on every day in our nation. I see mothers and fathers put in jail for doing nothing wrong, while real criminals are freed. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
In terms of, just the last question, the potential solution to the obstacles that you have discussed.
Well, how can a broken system help broken families? The only solution that I see is abolishment and arrest according to our laws. So Title 18, Section 241 and 242 would hold them accountable for these treasonous actions. When the bar membership is not a licensed membership, like they've been telling the people, when they tell the people they're too dumb to interpret English, when you're standing before a judge, it's common sense and common law for everyone. So we're told that we have to have someone represent us, and they don't represent us because we're too foolish to know better. If I don't know the law, then how can I be held accountable for it? Everything is backwards, it's twisted, and it's wrong, and it's destroying the health and welfare of all of our nation inside our borders. There's no other answer than to abolish this system and arrest the judges. That's what the people want. We never voted it in, so it has no legal standing to touch any of us. It has no legal right to tell us what to do, how to live, what hoop to jump through, and then maybe you'll get your kids back. Or to dangle your children over you and tell you, you had Cheerios on the floor, we're going to take them, they're in danger, and we'll talk to you about it in a week from now. That's not due process. Having an attorney is not due process either. Having a system that's legitimate, having a real justice system, that would be the only way that it would be due process, and it hasn't been that for decades. There is no other answer. We need to take the axe to the root.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you again.
This is great. I'm so proud of New York right now. Woo! Come on, New Yorkers! Come on! This is what New York is about! Informed! Come on! Como is corrupt! Como is corrupt! Como is corrupt! Yes! Segregating our children!
Anymore. There's the governor's front door right there. We're not going to take it. Hold on, call interrupted. Hold on, we had to take a call. We're outside the governor's mansion. We were playing We're Not Going to Take It Anymore, but the moment got a little interrupted. We're not gonna take it! Brooke Jordan in the house!
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We first want to thank Matthew Gerson from Congressman Antonio Delgado's office and also Congressman Antonio Delgado for getting us this room today in the Longboard Building, the Congressional Hearing Room. We're here today for the For the Children event and For the Children briefing on child trafficking and where it's really happening. There's a lot of talk on child trafficking today, but a lot of people don't know where the door is, the entry. So first, we have a panel of 5 here, Terry LaPointe, medical kidnap, Dr. Carlos Rivera, Chris Marks, myself, Francesca Amato, and David Jose, and we're going to talk about our views on where the child trafficking industry is really coming from. So first, without further ado, Terry LaPointe.
Hi. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. It is such an honor to be here to talk about the things that I've learned and I've seen that I cannot unsee as a journalist. I had no family that had issues here. I got into journalism. I was in journalism and started investigating stories and looking into what is known as medical kidnapping. I was the lead investigative reporter for medicalkidnap.com for more than 4 years, and what I've seen is shocking, it's devastating, and it is decidedly un-American. When I say the word medical kidnap, what we mean is children who are taken from their families for medical kinds of reasons, medical connections to the reason they're taken from their families, and generally by Child Protective Services. And I had no idea that human trafficking was connected. I learned that the majority of the children that are rescued from human trafficking come out of foster care. Foster care is a pipeline to human trafficking and child sex trafficking. Just some statistics that I've learned. According to the federal AFCARS report by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, less than 16% of children who are taken from their families are taken for any kind of reasons of abuse. Now, we think of Child Protective Services as designed to protect children from abuse, from child abuse. My impression as an American before I started this investigative work was that Child Protective Services only got involved if there were terrible parents who were abusing their children. That's what I thought it was for, and I think that is what the majority of Americans think that Child Protective Services is for. Less than 16% are taken for reasons of any kind of abuse. Only 17% of the allegations against parents end up being substantiated. And that is from the Children's Bureau of Child Maltreatment report from U.S. Health and Human Services. So allegations against parents saying that they've abused their children, only 17% of those are even substantiated. And that doesn't even mean that it's like a criminal conviction of guilty. That means that if someone has decided and written down that it is substantiated, it can be based not on actual evidence. The exonerating evidence can be left out. I've investigated hundreds and hundreds of cases from all across America, and I've talked with more families than we've covered stories have come to us and talked to us about what's happened. And the thing is, when we investigate these stories, we're not just taking their story and listening to what they have to say. We're looking at the medical records. We're looking at the court documents. We're interviewing other people that are involved. We're looking at both sides of the issue, all sides of it, and we're looking and vetting these stories, and these children are being taken from parents who have done no wrong. Sometimes children have been taken for wanting because their parents want a second medical opinion. Perhaps, and we've covered this, where the parent did not want their child to have major surgery that removes an organ without a second opinion, and they took her child. We've seen, one of the things that I learned early on in this is the shocking, stunning reality that children who are wards of the state, children in the system, can legally be used as medical lab rats for medical drug testing, drug pharmaceutical research, medical research without their parents' knowledge or consent. Well, you say, how can that be? Because the Nuremberg Code after the Holocaust told us that there has to be informed consent. Well, they bypassed that by having social workers or judges sign off on consent in place of the family. So children are literally being taken for medical research. Children that are in foster care are much more likely to be given psychotropic drugs, medications. Even babies 2 and 3 years old are sometimes given cocktails of lots of medications, psychotropic medications, and they're able to be part of drug research. We've seen cases where we know that they've been directly involved in human trafficking, child sex trafficking. We've seen where children have been placed with child sex offenders. In fact, in Los Angeles, it was in the mainstream media a few years ago, there was a list of approved foster parents and another list of registered sex offenders. There were 1,000 names that were on both lists. Registered sex offenders who were approved, state-approved foster parents. I've seen a report where a child she was returned to her parents, it said human trafficking, that she had been human trafficked. Well, she wasn't human trafficked in her own parents' home. This happened under state care. So the vast majority of older kids in the foster care system or adoption system have been abused, but sexually molested. It is more common than not for an older child to have been molested in foster care. A child in foster care is at least 6 times more likely to be raped, abused, molested, or killed in foster care than if they were left in their own home. One of the things that I hear so much is that, well, why aren't I know these people who are truly abusive. They really are abusive, and Child Protective Services doesn't do anything about it. And here's what I've learned from whistleblowers, from social workers who have talked to us and told us what's really going on. Because of financial incentives from the federal government on the federal level, like the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997 and other federal streams of money, what they're looking for are children who are considered to be adoptable. Children who are truly abused and truly in need of intervention are considered by the system to be damaged goods who are unadoptable. That's the answer to why some of these kids are taken, or are not taken, that should be taken. Laws are broken left and right. There are plenty of laws that would protect these children from the injustices, but they're broken left and right. I would dare say that I would be able to count the number of stories on one hand that, or less, that where there were no laws broken by people working for the state, for the government. So they're not being followed. There's not accountability. The federal incentives are creating an atmosphere where children can be taken from innocent families, just like you, just like me, without having done anything wrong. And they can be put into the hands of pedophiles, traffickers, or people who want to use them for medical drug research. And there's horror stories that we hear of, and we think they're anomalies. That's not the norm. Well, what I found out is that is the norm. It's more normal for this abuse to happen than it is for it not to be. But what happens is we get these reports and these federal reports and all these numbers that are sanitized. And yes, of course they have due process. Yes, of course they have an attorney. Yes, of course they have this, that, and the other thing that they're supposed to have. But that's not what's happening in reality. They're not really getting due process. They're getting attorneys that are court appointed or even ones that they pay for that are not effective. They're not presenting exonerating evidence. There's this, it is really, really difficult all across the nation for any parent to find an attorney who is willing to truly fight for them and present the actual evidence. I cannot unsee the things that I've seen in the past 5 years. I've cried so many tears for families just like yours. I believe that if our Congress really knew what was happening, I believe that if President Trump really knew what was happening, he would do something about it to fix it. I see the side that you may not see. That side is the prevalent side. Listen to their voices, please. Thank you.
Dr. Carlos Romero.
Hello. I'd like to thank Congressman Antonio Delgado and Junior Legislative Assistant Matthew S. Gerson for the privilege and opportunity to speak here today with you. My name is Dr. Carlos Rivera. I'm a pediatrician from Patchogue, New York, with over 18 years of clinical experience. Today I would like to speak to you regarding the deleterious effects of high conflict divorce on the emotional and psychological development of children. As a society, we've neglected to acknowledge the true suffering of children of divorce that they have endured. The age-old adage that children are resilient and bounce back from negative experiences couldn't be further from the truth. We now know that negative and traumatic experiences directly affect cognitive development and memory. Brain structures are physically altered by alterations in the neurotransmitter and hormonal milieu. The development of a child's brain architecture provides the foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. Just as a weak foundation compromises the quality and strength of a house, adverse experiences early in life can impair brain architecture with negative effects lasting into adulthood. Toxic stress weakens the architecture of the developing brain, in particular areas dedicated to higher order skills, which can lead to lifelong problems in learning, behavior, physical and mental health, and quality of life across their lifetime. In the late 1990s, researchers from the Centers of Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente were able to provide very compelling evidence that childhood trauma and instability impact health outcomes. The Adverse Childhood Experiences study uncovered a stunning link between childhood trauma and the chronic diseases people develop as adults, as well as social, emotional, and physical disorders. This includes heart disease, lung cancer, and many autoimmune diseases, as well as depression, violence, being the victim of violence, and suicide. There are 10 types of childhood trauma measured in the ACE study. 5 are personal: physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, physical neglect, and emotional neglect. 5 are related to other family members, such as a parent who's an alcoholic, a mother who's a victim of domestic violence, a family member in jail, a family member diagnosed with a mental illness, and the disappearance of a parent through divorce, death, or abandonment. Children exposed to multiple adverse childhood events are much more likely to experience health risks, including alcoholism, drug abuse, depression and suicide attempt, smoking, multiple sexual partners, and sexually transmitted diseases. Divorce or separation is the most common adverse childhood experience reported nationally. According to the CDC, the annual healthcare cost of adult patients who have a history of early trauma is $124 billion a year. Validating patients' past trauma isn't only beneficial for their well-being, it translates into fewer tests, procedures, and healthcare dollars spent. Sadly, with the current rate of divorce exceeding 50%, the prevalence of long-term health risks associated with these adverse events rises at an astonishing rate. This is further compounded by the current societal belief that divorces can only be dealt with in an adversarial manner. The current culture of divorce encourages acrimonious dissolution of marriages, resulting in irrevocable harm to our children. Even if divorcing couples seek an amicable situation, the modus operandi of our court system encourages conflict. We will strive to shield our children from misharm and provide an environment free of avoidable conflict. Our courts must truly act in the best interest of children and discourage current practices aimed at harming one parent in the process of winning the divorce. Divorce is not a competition, it's a dissolution of the relationship. The preservation of the child's future must take precedent over the material and economic gain. But in current society, this notion is naive. There are currently too many weapons in the legal arsenal to facilitate battle during the divorce process. All too often, loving parents lose sight of the harm endured by children in the throes of legal battle. Hurt people. Adults can be irrational when facing the economic and emotional strain of divorce. False accusations, interference with parenting time, and parenting alienation are common, the latter being the most damaging to the developing child. Parental alienation is the process and the result of psychological manipulation of a child into showing unwarranted fear, disrespect, or hostility towards a parent, grandparent, or other family member or friend. It is a deliberate, sustained effort to damage and diminish or outright eliminate a child's loving feelings towards a parent. This is a severe form of child abuse. The majority of children want contact with both parents on a regular basis, and the most common preference among children and among adults looking back on their parents' divorce is for parenting plans that nearly evenly balance the time between homes. Though theoretically possible, this is seldom the case. While many states purport to provide this arrangement, the statistical likelihood is that one parent will see their child or children one evening per week and every other weekend. In reality, tallying up to approximately only 5 days of parenting time during any given month. In cases of parental alienation, this potentially facilitates more opportunities to bond with a more aggressive parent. The alienation of children goes unnoticed by the courts many times because most of the judges and lawyers do not recognize the signs of it, nor provide the appropriate means to investigate it. Frankly put, most of these judges do not have the training or qualifications to identify the problem that exists in a lot of these situations. On average, when looking at the biographies and credentials available from many family law judges and attorneys, you find a lot of the same type of educational degrees, legal backgrounds, and accolades. While everything has exceptions, rarely do you see the evidence that these authorities have any specialized training and skill sets to deal with the psychology, children, and parenting. This is alarming considering the courts claim to actively make decisions under the banner of a child's best interest. Many decisions often get made in favor of one parent over another based on motion filings, hearsay without any outside evaluations done by neutral third parties with real expertise in areas trained to deal with psychological aspects of custody and divorce, thus best suited to assess parents and children and uncover signs of alienation. Combine this with the many unethical and manipulative tactics used by lawyers and players in custody and divorce appeals, and you have a recipe for disaster. We, the people, have entrusted individuals who, by their very nature and training, are prone to adversarial conflict in the form of litigation and courtroom displays to make decisions and steer outcomes regarding a child's well-being. It is in this way that children often become more like pawns on a chessboard as opposed to having their best interests genuinely prioritized and safeguarded. In the end, it is the children who suffer each and every time. Though this is clearly a form of child abuse, many witnesses to parental alienation do not intervene. There's a common belief that this is a private matter within the family and outsiders will be violating the privacy of that family. Witnesses thereby act as bystanders who do not act in the event of an endangered child. We need to change this trend and demand that witnesses speak up and rise to protect these children from irreversible emotional and physical harm. We must also be cognizant of the collateral harm suffered by estranged parents, families, and loved ones. Over the course of my career, I've repeatedly witnessed families emotionally torn by this process. I have listened to repeated testimonials of how, when compared to the most devastating personal loss or challenge, alienation from a loved child by far exceeds the trauma of any other life event or challenge. Military veterans who served in active combat state that they would rather face risk to their own life in battle than be estranged, alienated, or kept from their child. Currently, there are multiple loopholes and opportunities to facilitate the actions and choices of parents who choose to alienate a targeted parent from their child. From parental alienation to custody issues, CPS intervention, child trafficking, and medical kidnapping, there are numerous critical issues to address. These are topics that will be addressed by my colleagues in attendance. The current safeguards in our courts fall short of the charge to protect the best interests of the children. There is a dire need for revision and reform to address the protection of children affected by the process of divorce. We are now fully aware of the adverse effects of divorce on children's health. We have a duty to act. I implore the distinguished individuals attending this conference to dedicate their efforts for effective revision and change. We have a responsibility for health and welfare of our children's future and must be steadfast in our resolve to preventing the preventable. I thank you for your time and look forward to the effective change you are empowered to provide. Thank you.
Chris Morris.
Hello. First off, I'd like to start off by thanking Anthony Delgado and Matthew Gerson for attending. I'm Christopher Marks of the Indiana Mining People, indigenous to what is done in the state of Indiana. I'm here as a reminder of the history of this nation, a reminder of what the government has done to the American Indian people, a reminder of the American Indian Reservation Policy. The American Indian Reservation Policy was the U.S. federal government's policy on how to deal with the American Indian problem that we had within this nation. That policy was to intentionally keep the American Indian people in poor, to limit their access to the access to the necessities that allow Native Americans to survive. The Native American people of this nation have survived what was deemed to be the cultural genocidal practices that our own U.S. federal government committed against the American Indian people through the American Indian boarding school practices. That was the practice wherein the government would come in and remove the American Indian children, send them great distances separating those children from their parents. Those children were very often beaten, murdered, and buried in mass graves, molested. The same statistics, maybe even higher, that we now see the American people facing while they're in the family court system's child protective services. When they're placed with foster parents, those who are state authorized to act as the guardians of our children, who coincidentally can also be on a sexual predator's watch list, or a sex offender's watch list. We now have American families experiencing the exact same treatment by our federal government. And if you want to know what a future of the United States of America looks like while the American Indian Reservation Policy is being implemented against every American all across this nation, this isn't a stretch of imagination. All one has to do is go to a current American Indian reservation, wherein you find that the American Indian man is statistically the highest statistic for suicide. These are people that, while being the original peoples of this nation, exist in less than 1% of the population cap of the entirety of this nation. They're poor. They're neglected. They were kept that way, and this was the United States government's policy on how to deal with the American Indian problem. I think that the main question that the people here need to ask themselves is if this is the way our federal government created policies to deal with the American Indian problem, what does our federal government have a problem with every American in this country? Why would you send out a a subdivision of the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, our state branches, CPS practices, to lie about American children, commit felony perjury in our child and human services cases? Why would we leave social workers underneath those CPS practices and allow them to, through that perjury, kidnap American people's children, place them in foster homes where they can be molested, beaten, murdered? My main question to the federal government is when we make our Social Security contributions, it's my understanding that the Social Security system is a trust fund. That is, an individual trustor paid into that Social Security trust fund, but the United States federal government would manage that trust fund appropriately. Would pay those monies out exclusively to beneficiaries that were entitled to those benefits, are elderly, are disabled, are disenfranchised. The state governments that are being paid our Social Security monies through the Social Security Act of 1974 as amended to date, all the money that is being received by the states, that's federal mismanagement of our Social Security monies. That valuation annually exceeds over $50 billion a year, while the individual contributors that are paid into those Social Security funds receive less than $30 billion a year. Why are elderly, disabled, and disenfranchised left picking between whether or not they're going to pay for the food, pay for the health care, pay for their shelter, and they only get to pick two of those three? While the state governments are sitting a fat cat on federal grant monies that are being sent out of our Social Security funds. Last and most important, why is the federal government mismanaging our money to pay the state governments to commit crimes against us? We don't want that money.
So again, I do want to thank Congressman Antonio Delgado, Matthew Person again, and also I did leave out Lynn Johnson, appointed by President Trump for the child trafficking, the head child trafficking chair, and we thank her. She's been receiving numerous affidavits from families all over the country, even outside of our country. And also, I'd like to thank, special thanks to Robert Slavin. If it wasn't for Robert Slavin, we would not be here today, and Joyce Catalano for putting together an amazing concert. It was the second annual For the Children concert here in Washington, D.C., and Robert for putting together this entire event for the children. And it's all about the children, but you know what? We're all God's children. Even though we're adults, little kids living inside of us, this event is something that has been happening for centuries. It's not just something that's been happening recently. Now that you are seeing all the child trafficking come to light, we know about Epstein, and we know about all the different things that are happening and are coming to light. And when I first began speaking, I said, we're here today to talk about the child trafficking industry. And most people, when you hear child trafficking, well, you think of a little girl or a little boy somewhere in some country on the dirt sand and being prostituted. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. It's not that obvious. So as advocates, and I'm a national advocate, we have learned that this child trafficking industry is a for-profit private business. The doorway is family court. Family court is the doorway. And a lot of people separate the different businesses. They'll say family court is one entity, CPS, Child Protective Services, is another, foster care is another, forced adoption is another, kidnap is another. No, This is one evil system. And sadly, because I court watch all over the country, and I go into various types of courts, small country courts, big giant courts, and it's scary that this is happening inside our country. And it has the nerve to call it the justice system. Remember the scales that are supposed to be balanced? Fairness, equality, fairness for all people, safety, protections. They're like this. They're down here, and the big guys up here. And children and families, whether you're in the womb of your mother, or you're an elderly person ready to go to the next life, your life is in danger. Isn't that terrible that in our country, home of the free, land of the brave, all our veterans that fought for this place to protect it, the border, we want to just protect everything and all this. We don't have these protections inside the borders of our country. We don't have it. We think that we do, but we don't. And the whole guise is behind this court system. Now, if your court system's not just, then that's not justice, and we don't actually have a court system. And when it's tied into child trafficking, and it's a systemic, very sophisticated system, that as soon as a family breaks up, which they're already going through a hardship, okay, they're already going through something terrible, they're already going through something very traumatic. They say that actually the breakup of a relationship in many cases, and this is psychologically proven, is more devastating even than the death of a loved one, the breakup. So imagine being a little child and being ripped away from your mother and father and having to live with that trauma and having to go with, and having to go with a complete and utter stranger and not know what's happening, and then being that mother or father, or mother and father, because it happens to old ones too, and not knowing why someone just came and took your child from you, and now we're going to ask questions later. We're going to see if you're guilty or not later. Now, Dr. Carlos talked about ACE research, adverse childhood experiences. The traumas associated with that are lifelong and actually take away years of their life. And it can take up to 20 years, and even they're discovering now even more, so early death. And so imagine being that child and being that adult as well, because you're suffering too, parents are suffering too. God gave children to parents so that we can protect them, and raise them in the way that they should go. And we don't have that opportunity anymore in this country because the trauma alone, the actual trauma alone from that first second is so devastating that you're changed for life. Your brain is changed for life. Now imagine this happening long term for years. I have families who I've been advocating for years. I also became a victim of this system myself. And I have literally seen families, their children come back and you're starting a healing process. You're never 100%. But then I have families that have not seen their children, nor do they know where they are. They don't even know where they are. How do you live every day of your life not knowing where your children are? I know that my eyes never left my children. I remember looking in the rearview mirror at my son or my daughter and never wanting to take my eyes off of them. Imagine not knowing where they are. So I didn't want to give statistics today. I wanted to appeal to your human side. I wanted to appeal to what we're supposed to be built on here in this country. We are a country mostly of, well, we should be of family, correct? And so I wanted to appeal to that today. We have all the science, we have all the research, we know what's happening, but we want to also tie it into the fact that children, adults, and the elderly should not be trafficked. And it's not always sexual trafficking. Trafficking is simply moving a child or an adult from one location to another without any kind of due process whatsoever. Completely reverse of what our laws are very clear and what they're supposed to be are. Completely opposite of what they are. So we're here today not just to tell you what's happening, not just to shed light on what's happening. We're not here just to tell you this so that tomorrow you can go about your day and just keep this perpetrating this disgusting child trafficking industry through the family court and all the venues I just explained. But we're here today because we are demanding that this stops. We don't want to see the family court open tomorrow morning. We want to see Title 18, Sections 241 and 242. We want to see these judges arrested and jailed for their treasonous acts, because this is an absolute treasonous act against the American families on American soil. And I'm going to ask everybody to do some research and look up something that most people think is true. Look up in our country if there's any state that's allowed to have a licensed attorney. Now, if you find one thing wrong with the system that's supposed to be the justice system, wouldn't that mean everything is wrong? And I'll just give you a little hint. There is no such thing as a licensed attorney. They are bar members, and that's a membership. This is such a fraud, and we can no longer, in this century, allow this fraud to continue. I am not here today to simply give you stats. I'm not here today. We're here to educate you and to shed light on this, but we want this system completely over, abolished, and then we want them held accountable. And that's where Title 18, Section 242 comes into play, which talks about arresting, actually it says a little worse than that, it will be nice, arresting the treasonous so-called judges, which aren't actually judges. But I'm going to leave the rest of that to David Jose. He's going to finish this off with one thing very well.
Hello, I want to thank you all for being here. I definitely want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to speak with you and to explain some of the things that are going on. Matthew, first, I definitely want to thank you for coming and taking notes. I'm definitely appreciative of that, and I'm appreciative to Representative Delgado for opening up the doors for all of these things to happen. Francesca Amato just made a statement that seems to be very harsh. It seems that when you say something like a judge or an attorney could be working in a fraudulent manner, it would seem that that may not be true. Well, I come here today as one of we, the people. If you look at every preamble to every constitution in every state, is going to speak of we, the people. Another thing you're going to find is that we, the people, hold all political power. Not some, not a little bit, not what we're given, but the actual bills of rights and declarations of rights say that the power is inherent in the people. And so in order for us to be able to write a constitution and to be able to create seats and offices for judges and executive branch members and legislative members to sit in order to do that, we must have first had the power to get it. And so when we deal with courts and judges and attorneys who laugh and we talk about the Constitution, something should click in your mind and let you know that this is wrong. Because if there is no such thing of a constitution, then there is no such thing of a government seat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some words from our forefathers around the world so that we can, the nation, so that we can hear what it is that our forefathers left us when they created our states and our nation. And so we'll start off with Arizona Declaration of Rights, because that's where I'm from. Our forefathers left this in the Declaration of Rights. A frequent recurrence to fundamental principles is essential to the security of individual rights and the perpetuity of free government. It's not saying so that the government can be free. It's saying if you want to have individual rights and you want to be a free people, you must always go back to fundamental principles. And so that's what I want to do today. I want to look at some of the fundamental principles that our forefathers left so that we would not have the problem that we are having today. The second one is political power. Many times people will say, I'm asking the government to give us our rights back. I'm asking the government to help us. But in the Declaration of Rights of Arizona, we'll see where Section 2 says, all political power is inherent in the people, and governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governor and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. So, the reason this is important is because everything that we have heard today is simply a situation where officials who we might call government are taking powers that we can't find anywhere in any constitution of the country. So if the people give the duties to the government to protect our rights, that means that it is a trust. The Constitution is simply a trust indenture. And what we're doing is we're granting power into government officials to take care of our property and our rights, and that's it. So, if we grant power to a group or a body to make them trustees to protect our rights and property, can they then work in a case to take our property from us?
No, same type of trust.
Is a trust, is a breach of trust. Now, some people might say, well, you're saying that this is a trust relationship. When we look at the Constitution, there's no way that can be true. They're government officials, they have power, you guys have power over the people. Let's look at Georgia Constitution 1877 as ratified without subsequent amendments. And it's going to tell us something that may shock all of us. It says, all government of right originates with the people, is founded upon their will only. Government was not put here to impose a will over the people. It was created for the people's will only. Now, for some reason, there has been a lack of education in schools where this is taught. So many of us even in this room might not know that the Bills of Rights say that the power comes from the people and it's not the other way around. But what we must notice is this. It says, it's founded upon their will only, meaning the people's wills only, and is instituted solely, meaning only, for the good of the whole. Public officers are the trustees. Public officers are the trustees and servants of the people. And at all times, not just in session, at all times amendable to them. So what that means is that the people can change the government whenever they want to, because the trust powers that you were granted as government officials came from the people. And there should never be a time in America where the people have to come beg for officials to give us the rights that we declared in the Bills of Rights and the Declaration of Rights.
True.
The Bills of Rights and the Declarations of Rights are simply the trust indenture which gives you power to do anything that you do. But if you take powers, it is no longer just powers, it is stolen powers, and you act in the private. Anything you do outside the trust indenture is private, and people who have been given power are responsible. So when Francesca says these judges are not government officials, these lawyers aren't government officials, nobody in any trust indenture anywhere in this nation gave anybody the power to take a child from anybody at any time, ever, arbitrarily. The states are allowed to accept kids into care. As for this law that we have discussed, CAPTA, the law that we discussed, and the Social Security Act, the public law that we discussed, never gave anyone authority to ever take a child from anybody at any given time against their will. And I'm going to read it to you so you can see it. This is where we know that something is wrong. Because if the average man or woman does something outside of trust, they can go to prison. But when someone calls himself a judge or a legislative member, writes statutes and codes and laws that go against the very Constitution and the people who gave the power, it is a breach of trust. And so what I want to do is read a couple of things to end this off, because for some reason we've been told that there is an ability for a social worker to take a kid, and it's in the law. We've been told that they have the ability to adopt our kids by force, and it's in the law. What I want to say is that it is not in the law. And as a matter of fact, we have been tricked because Title 42 of the United States Code is not law. Title 42 of the United States Code has never been passed into Congress. It is a non-positive law. It is an editorial compilation of what this law is called, the public law. And I'm going to read from the 3 public laws so we can hear what jurisdiction our government officials have and what the real law is. And I'm going to read from Sandra Day O'Connor, the first female Supreme Court Justice in America. In the case, Troxel versus Granville, in 2000, I'm going to read from what one attorney showed. It says the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on the issue of grandparent visitation rights. Now, we're talking about grandparent visitation. We're not talking about a caseworker. We're not talking about a judge in the Superior Court. We're not talking about a representative of the state. We're talking about somebody who has blood familial relationship with a child. And this is what the Supreme Court said, and it is not shown in the public by attorneys. It says, which involved a dispute a Washington State mother and her ex-boyfriend, between Washington State mother and an ex-boyfriend's parents. When Brad Troxel, the children's father, died in 1993, his parents informed the mother, Tommy Granville, that they wanted to maintain a relationship with the couple's 2 daughters. Washington law, now pay attention that this says Washington law, but the court is going to correct that language. The court is not going to just say that it's a law. The court is going to explain exactly what it is and what it has to stand under. So it says that the court, the Washington law at the time, allowed any person to petition for visitation at any time, and gave state court discretion to grant that visitation when it was in the child's best interest. Number 1, you will never find best interest of a child in any law anywhere in the world. It does not exist. It's not a standard. It is not, law is specific. There is no such thing of a best interest of the child. It is arbitrary. It is something that is made up to make a determination that you can't make because you're not a psychologist or a social worker, right? But this is what the court found. It said, but the majority of the Troxel court struck down the state statute as unconstitutional. Not every statute that is made is constitutional, but if nobody challenges it, it stands. So we have courts that know that it was unconstitutional. Judges that know that it was unconstitutional, but they took jurisdiction anyway when they didn't have it, just to be able to make money off of these cases because they make money off the actual case. This is not about them being paid by taxes as government workers. They get paid by government taxes at one time, and then at another time they're getting paid money in special cases that are not really Article 3 courts. These are private entities that can be closed at times, with which every Declaration of Rights and Bill of Rights in the country say you cannot do. But to continue, finding it interfered with the parents' rights to raise the children as they please. So the Supreme Court already came out and told that the people have a right to raise their children as they please, and nobody can make a statute, no legislature can make a statute that says that somebody can come in arbitrarily and take your children from you. But this is what's happening. So we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of parents in America crying, broken, many committing suicide, because they believe that somebody had the power to take their kids, and they did not know that their own Bill of Rights and Declaration of Rights says that children are a liberty interest and you cannot take them without due process of law. That means a jury of your peers. So we have a system that is not constitutional, that the Supreme Court has already said is not constitutional, and bar members are not coming out and telling the people and giving full disclosure that they are running a private court. And so we're facing a situation where we are in dire straits, and we have people asking for permission to have their children when children are liberty interests and nobody can take it. It is unconstitutional. Now, to continue, writing for the majority, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor said, the liberty interest at issue in this case, the interest of parents in the care, custody, and control of their children, is perhaps the oldest of the fundamental liberty interests recognized by this court. The Supreme Court realizes the familial relationship between a mother and father and their child as the oldest liberty interest recognized by the entire Supreme Court. But we have people taking our children. Now, to end, what I want to do is look at the 3 laws that are so-called used to give these people power to take children. And this is what they're using. Because the people in America today believe that this organization has the right and the duty to take your kids from you if they have some concern. So they are using Title 42 to say we have the right to give your kids services. Title 42 has never been passed in positive law. So they're not giving you the public law, which is the real law. They're giving you an editorial compilation that's giving them the ability to hold cases that they do not have the right or the authority from the people to hold. And here's the laws. ASPA, one of the worst, 1997, worked on by Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Parents around the country are quoting the Title 42 and saying that ASPA is the worst thing in the world because it gave mothers and fathers, social workers, the ability to steal kids from parents. This is what they honestly believe. Let's look at what the truth says, the actual law. ASPA, Section 401, Preservation of Reasonable Parenting. Nothing in this act is intended to disrupt the family unnecessarily or to intrude inappropriately into family life. Why is it inappropriate to intrude into family life? Because it's a liberty interest that the people have that they never gave anybody the power to disrupt. To prohibit the use of reasonable methods of parental discipline, we have people who say if you use spanking as a discipline, if you correct your children, if you go to church too much, that you shouldn't have your child. If you got 4 dishes in the sink, you shouldn't have your child. To prohibit the use of reasonable methods of parental discipline or to prescribe a particular method of parenting. One social worker can't come and tell you that you can't have your kids because you go to church too much, because you make them work out and you don't let them just sit and play video games. You cannot do that. That power was not given. And it's in the very law that they say they're using to take the kids. That gives them authority. It says you can't. Here's another. Social Security Act, 1935. We're going to look at the original legislative intent. Title 11, definition section 1101, 6D. Nothing in this act. See, in the original, it was always told that nothing in these acts gave anybody the power to take people's kids. Why is this one hidden and Title 42 always shown? Why is 45 CFR always shown? Why not show what the Congress really gave? Congress gave out a law and told people don't run over parents' rights. Now attorneys who are working with these entities that are private and making money off of all these cases and hiring judges who become private to make money off of all these cases are hiding the law that you all made, hiding the law that actually tells that you can't take children from people, and using something else to take people's kids, which is kidnapping. It says nothing in this act shall be construed as authorizing any federal official, and I want us to know that CPS is an agent of the federal, because they're contracting with APS, which is federal, in order to get the money. It says any federal official, agent, or representative in carrying out any of the provisions of this act to take charge of any child over the objection of either of the parents of such child or the person standing in local parental to such child. This means that you cannot take a kid from anybody who doesn't want you to. Now they've been bringing guns, they've been bringing untrained police to come with them to take kids, so the law says you cannot take kids. So we're putting everybody on notice. We're going to send out affidavits to every congressional member to let them know what is happening. We are going to send out affidavits to William Barr. We're going to send out affidavits to Donald Trump. We're going to send out affidavits to everyone and let them know what the real law says and let them know that the people in the states aren't following. And then for the people in the states and the so-called judges who are working in private attorneys, we're going to write affidavits of treason to let them know that the real law said you can't take kids. You are now on notice that you can't take kids. And if you want to continue to take kids, we will happily give you affidavits of treason to let it be known that you are breaking the law. We come humbly in the name of Christ, letting you know what the truth is, and we are asking for something to be changed and for people to stop. We're not asking it to be fixed, just stop. Because you're hurting too many families and people are committing suicide. The one last law, called CAPTA, which everybody has been scared of since 1974. Public Law 86-724 is a 74 Stat 849. It starts off in Section 2A by saying, notwithstanding any other provision of law. That means if any other part of the law says that you can't do it, nothing in here has standing. So before we start reading these laws, we need to make sure we realize that it has standing when there's another law beforehand that says that you can't do what you're doing. But in this law, it says, an annuitant, as defined under section 89013 of Title V, United States Code, who is participating or who is eligible to participate in the health benefits program, not law, program, under Retired Federal Employees Health Benefits Act. So, the limitations of this captive was to be for federal employees. I have a hard time understanding why attorneys read the law every day and they don't tell anybody that this program was for retired federal employees and their children to have benefits. It's an insurance program. So why are you taking kids from people who are not inside of your insurance program, who are not federal employees? Surely not because they have a federal ID number called a Social Security number. If you're not working and getting paid a check by the federal government, why are they using authority over you? So, as I end, I want to read from Declaration of Rights, Due Process of Law, in Section 4 of Due Process of Law, which is Due Process of Law in Arizona. It says, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Lord Coke would have told you that due process of laws was called a jury of your peers, and it's by the common law. You look at Article 7 of the Bill of Rights and some of these statutes out here, it'll mention common law twice. Common law is the law of the land. Any private law or any contracts that's being exerted on the people or being forced on the people is not allowed in the common law. So if you want to take the life of a man or a woman, you want to take their kid, which is a liberty interest, you want to take their property, which has happened all too much. If you want to take any of that, you have to have a jury of your peers. The people didn't give the government the right to take take people, take their money, take their property, because that would be a conflict of interest. You can't be someone who's a trustee for me and have the duty to take care of my property and my rights, and then fight against my property and my rights and things. And so I want to thank you all for listening to us. We will have affidavits going out to every single representative, letting it be known what is happening. We actually have thousands of people who are in the states who will write affidavits as well, letting it be known what is happening. We know that it is not the fault of Congress, because you guys actually broke real laws that protected us and said do not take children against their parents' wishes. But for some reason, somebody has not passed a memo to the police officers and to the states who are taking kids for money now. So I thank you guys for having us. I thank you for coming and taking notes. I thank you guys for listening intently. And I thank you for being here for the people. I pray that we can work together to make resolutions by stopping those things that are wrong and not trying to change those things or saying that it costs too much money. Surely, the children of America don't cost, there's no price that can be put on their head and cost to stop the stealing and the kidnapping of children. And if we might ever think that this is not happening, we can just look at Italy. Recently has come out and arrested judges, attorneys, guardian ad litems for a scheme to take children from parents and to lie as if they were abused. We can also look at California. Just recently, judges and attorneys and guardian ad litems are being watched by the FBI right now for a scheme that they're taking children. If we look at ex-CIA, Robert David Steele, he came out and said that there is a scheme going against elderly and children where they are taking kids without due process and by fraud. And they said that the players are going to be arrested. We're seeing a lot of arrests now. And one thing that I want to remind all government officials and the people of is that anytime you hear felons and you don't do something about the felons, the law says you're part of the felon. So the people are aware of what's happening around the country. Hundreds of thousands of parents have come out to all of us and told us the different things that are happening. They're writing affidavits. They sent affidavits to Trump's trafficking council head chair. So the truth is out there, and the people are standing up, and we're asking those people who are righteous in their positions to do the right thing and to bring punishment to those who are doing wrong and return the children. Thank you.
sex-trafficked, which she started due to the abuse that families endure in family court. We have worked with hundreds and hundreds of families. Myself, I've worked with Fran for almost 2 years. And the biggest issue that we have is that these judges are making orders and they're forcing people to do things such as vaccinate your child when you don't want to. They take children from good parents and leave them in unhappy, unhealthy, and abusive situations.
By force.
And they're forced to be that way. They're forced to have supervised visitation even though they have no finding, no unfitness. And unfortunately, because when you go into family court, your judge is not even an actual judge because you're dealing with a private for-profit business. They're an administrator. That's impersonating a judge. That's a crime.
So,
but yet they still sit on that bench.
Yeah, let me just touch on that for a second. I actually, do you mind if I actually spoke before the New York State Assembly on November 21st before Assemblywoman Walker, and Assemblywoman Jaffe, and so like literally this should have been abolished. This literally should have been audited, at least at the very least, the very next day after we put them on public notice. Now the Facebook version of the live video is hit about 20,000 views. I think the YouTube one maybe like 5,000 views, and then the New York State Assembly has been seen by millions. And this is not just a vaccine issue. This is a very serious issue in our nation. New York State was the Family Act was actually instated in 1962. So all these decades, this has been running. Not voted in by the people. That's the most important thing. So they usurped our authority. Legislation usurped our authority. We never voted the Family Act in. We had nothing to do with it whatsoever, or anything prior to that. But we need to start at some point in history, which would be 1962. So all these decades, this family court system has run. Now, as an advocate, and I do this nationwide, and I'm doing this over 12 years now. I'm doing it because I went to family court, shockingly enough, never in my life thought I would ever experience what I experienced in the family court. We're talking about Ulster County Family Court. Their real name is Ulster County of Family Court. It's not a court, and this is very scary to this nation because if we A, didn't vote it in, B, it's a private for-profit business, just like Sarah said, with a Dun & Bradstreet number, meaning it runs and operates as a business, okay? And the people never had any say in the matter. They usurped our authority. What happened to me is I started going, not because I chose to go there, I was taken there. And I went thinking, oh, I'm a law-abiding citizen, this is gonna be fine. And I'm not here to talk about my story today, I do this for all families. But I started saying there's something really very wrong when you have a parent, and this could be in any situation, where that person is on drugs, that person is mandated to NA, Narcotics Anonymous, that person is mandated to, probation, that person has a serious criminal record, and you're a clean background, protective, loving, providing parent with no history whatsoever, and yet you're not allowed, not only are you not allowed to protect your child, but you're threatened that if you do not send your child into the hands of harm's way, okay, when I'm talking domestic violence abuse and convicted criminal activity, convictions of whatever, assault and battery, whatever the case may be, if you don't send your child, so now how does anybody tell you you have to send your child into abuse or you'll go to jail? And they do actually follow through. She's not been able to take her child to a doctor with vaginitis that is constant, ongoing, for years. So she's being threatened with jail right now because she took her child to a doctor. So we've been trying to reach Letitia James for over 2 years now. We filed a federal complaint that was literally, they took our federal complaint, which was miscellaneous. We paid for it as miscellaneous, and they forced it as civil when it was never civil. That is actually a felony crime. The family court is running as a felony crime, and the judges should be prosecuted under Title 18 sections, and you probably should write this down, 241 and 242. And so we're here because we want the family court audited. We want the family court abolished, and I understand they're doing the Excellence Initiative. I understand that they're talking about a merger. I understand that they're talking about abolishing, but you cannot abolish something and then merge it. I mean, the definition of abolishment means goodbye, Charlie, you're out. So we don't want it merged. The unified court system, by its name alone, is a merged court system. And when it's technically not a court, and it's running for over 5 decades, and it was no due process of law, no jury trials of your peers, chosen by you, the people. This is very serious. This is not only treason, parental rights, civil rights, everything. So
I in fact just got finished watching a trial in Ulster County. Should I say his name? The administrator.
Oh.
In front of Anthony McGinty. This trial went on for quite some time, I believe.
They all go for over a year.
Yeah, about a year I was involved with this.
They're supposed to go 90 days from commencement.
And this, with the trial of days and days of cross-examining, that testimony, everything going on, evidence, all this, and the judge will not change anything about that order.
But the judge said that the father was in contempt. He said the father was in contempt, but he didn't arrest him.
Right,
but he arrests mothers.
Right, he's not holding the father accountable for that contempt at all. He's letting him walk away. And unfortunately, the mother of these children has been punished just like I have been. In my situation, in 4 years that I've been fighting in Dutchess County, I had Administrator Posner who literally destroyed my life and my children's. She took my children from me. I have no finding of unfitness. I have no history of any mental illness. Do I have mental illness? Absolutely, I do now. I have severe PTSD. Severe. Some days I can't even leave my house. I can't even barely.
But now can I clarify that? Because I'm an ADA advocate, which means American Disability Act is my specialty. Under Title I, they're violating that every single day, and including the Department of Justice is violating it because they're not protecting the rights of the people. These people are not born with PTSD. Post-traumatic stress, they were calling it post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not something that somebody is born with. It is a syndrome from trauma. So you're repeatedly traumatized by these judges because you're being threatened that you cannot or you can't have your children, or you either inject them with 72 vaccinations, okay, where there's no, like, the laundry list of side effects alone should tell you that's not exactly the safest thing to do to children. But let's not even talk about vaccines. Let's talk about the fact that they're violating your rights, forcing you to not protect your children, but CPS, Child Protective Services, is supposed to be there to protect your children, but they never do. They leave children in harmful homes. They place children in harmful homes. The country has been, they medically kidnap children that are contracted to these hospitals. They force them into foster care and then force them into forced adoption where they're abused, where they're actually abused. Under ADA Title I, somebody like Sarah, who now has post-traumatic stress syndrome because they changed the name, because it's a trauma caused by injury. So it's like if a drunk driver hits you and you got the blame for standing on the side of the road. And if you stand there, you're going to jail because you stood there, even though the drunk driver did the wrong thing. So these judges are like drunk drivers. That's what they're like. And then they threaten healthy, good, loving families. Maybe they split up. They weren't able to, stay together, but they can either healthily co-parent, or one parent or the other has situations that are not healthy for children, and the judges are forcing the children into those homes because they want CPS to come into the home that's not healthy for children, so they can eventually take the children, so they can either put them on psychotropic drugs. And all of this is federal funding. All of this is all the different titles of funding sources that come in, and it comes out of our tax dollars. So we don't want this, but they're forcing it on us. Let's talk about corruption, magnified by 1,000, and what it's doing, and what it's been doing logarithmically all of these years. So there are so many human right violations, U.S. constitutional violations that are happening. And so when we go to our Attorney General, here's another thing that's completely wrong. The Attorney General is supposed to be the attorney for the general, for the public. And if you sue a judge, okay, that can do anything they want as long as they're under their judgeship, you can't quote unquote sue the judge, and so the attorney general will be the attorney for the judge. Where does that make any sense? Everything is flipped backwards, and this is how they set the system up. So it's wrong. So the people are being violated every single day in this country, in this state, harming our families.
Killing themselves, suicidal, every day.
Yeah, you see the genocide on Facebook sometimes.
Because of the family courts, paying child support, not being able to see their kids, not having any access to their children. And it's sad, like something needs to be done.
Yeah.
And we just saw today, was it on Facebook, that we just saw another father took his life at the age of 48 years old because he had no access to his children, but he had to pay so much money in child support which is actually, another thing is that that's also a crime too, because what is it, I can't think of the name of it, but they outlaw debtor's prison. So where are they putting people in jail for not being able to afford to pay child support? Or here's a good one: if you're on disability, they double dip into your account and take your disability money to pay child support.
Yeah, they're doing that to me right now.
But in the meantime, the other parent, and I see this all the time, like I am an expert in this, so I go in and out of people's homes, I get to know their entire families, and I am in and out of these courts watching these judges, which are actually administrators, not judges, making these insane orders that are beyond irresponsible. I mean, what they're doing is destroying families, destroying children.
Here's a
statutes and codes. It's a lot for you.
Okay, one at a time. One at a time.
What do you mean they double dip into your account? So you pay it and then they also take it?
Yes. See, right now I pay the Dutchess County rule that I pay $75 a month. I'm on disability. It comes automatically out of my check. But the part of my disability that goes to my children, their father gets.
And not does he just get it. Not only does he just get that money, but he makes how much? I have families that.
That's a full-time job.
Well, in other words, I don't know what his salary is, but I can tell you that I have worked with people who they're taking money from a disability money to pay child support, and then mind you, they get $12 for every dollar that goes through child support collection unit, because that comes out of all the other funding sources. Okay, these are crimes. These are felony crimes, and on top of that, the other party, the other parent, so to speak, makes $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $150,000 a year. I have a woman who's actually a fraud expert. She is clearance through the FBI and everything, and they stole her son out of Nassau County. Okay, I mean, I can tell you stories because I have the database full, and I have them under oath of the state of New York, all the way from Buffalo, Niagara Falls, all the way down through the 5 boroughs and everything in between, that I can show you under oath, one after the other of these families and these judges. We can talk about Judge Grubel in Kings County. Her husband is Zimmerman, Mr. Zimmerman. They're married. They did a fake divorce so that they're not caught with what they're doing. He owns an adoption agency. He gives the children, mostly Jewish children, so let's talk about anti-Semitism, mostly Jewish children, to his wife so that they can sell them into adoption. Then we have Judge Anthony McGinty of Ulster County of Family Court. Okay, he targets mothers mostly, but he does go after fathers too, but he mostly goes after mothers and children, and jails mothers, innocent mothers with clean backgrounds. He jails them, places their children in harm's way, and I can just go on. I've watched him scream and yell at people. I've watched him, these are cannons. We saw him clearly under the influence. We contacted everybody to go quickly do a drug test, and nobody responded to that.
When we called the Board of Judicial Misconduct,
they do nothing.
How do we, can we demand to have a test done immediately? Oh no, if you put a complaint in, you'll hear something back in about
3 months it was. No, it was like 3 months.
Yeah, 10 to 12 weeks or something.
Then we have Judge Ellen Greenberg. Yeah, that one. I mean, it's just abnormal to put families to sit here and to say that the New York State is for, first of all, women. That is the biggest joke ever. To say that to take the father out of the home like they have been doing for centuries, decades rather. Good fathers with good backgrounds, fathers with clean backgrounds, fathers that are loving and protective. That is wrong. To make chaos in families that are willing to work together, they make them them high conflict. They hold you for 18 years, 21 years, 26 years. You're bound and gagged to a family court.
Non-custodial, so
Yeah,
that they can have child support and all these things. So
we want it
that's the goal.
shut down. We want it abolished.
What ended up becoming is, it's basically a place for couples that are bitter to go and duke it out.
Well, that's what that's the look that they want to give it.
Right,
That's not
but
fair.
And if couples aren't bitter, they turn them bitter. Like, that's
Right.
how this system works. I've seen it.
Yeah, they
happen.
make it high conflict.
They make it happen to
Hold on. Let me talk about Judge Posner. Let's talk
Yes.
about her for a minute, and let's talk about Judge McKenzie, who took over. Judge McKenzie, I actually watched her myself. I will put this under oath. I will put this under oath. I literally watched this woman give a father full unfettered access through a 3-month-old baby who just passed one drug test, but he has criminal convictions on dealing and using heroin. She gave the baby. I sat there and watched her give the baby, and I heard her say, because the mother smokes pot, I heard her say, I don't like either one of, to make herself look good. I have issues with both of you, and she gave full unfettered access to the father, full unfettered, unsupervised access to a man because he passed one drug test. However, I've seen them steal children from families who do not do drugs. I've seen them falsify drug records. And I've seen them make big issues out of somebody who is on a medical marijuana card, and they're not allowed to parent their children. I mean, this is just, like I said, I don't know if I have to even explain how wrong this is. I want to name other judges, though. So we got Posner. Let's talk about her.
Posner is definitely at the top of my list. Joan Posner was
retired.
She just destroyed my life. She retired a little more than a year ago. And she was as crooked as the day is long. And there's even a Facebook page that is devoted to her. It's called The Legacy of Joan Posner.
Dutchess County.
Yes. And there are all kinds of complaints about this woman. There's people that have gone on there and just ranted on about how horrible she is. There's even, in fact, a woman, a case that I know, that the Posner took her kids, put them in foster care, and terminated her rights, and that day, that woman went home and killed herself. So, what it all boils down to at the end of the day is, where's our moral fiber? Where's our compass of right and wrong anymore? I feel like I have a court order that's signed by a judge that says I can't talk to her. They're trying to tell me who I can and can't talk to.
Oh yeah, she's not allowed to talk to me. First Amendment freedom of speech right.
They put a gag order on me, slipped it into an order of protection. They brought into hundreds of violations against me for this order of protection. Social media is a protected right. I have every right to say what I want on Facebook or any
called
social
freedom
media.
of speech.
Right. It is just as powerful as your freedom of speech. It is a protected right. There is no such thing as a gag order. They cannot take that right from me.
No, that's a huge constitutional violation. And when they did that to her, the police actually called her to arrest her, and I stopped them dead in their tracks, and she never got arrested after that. And so people need to know that they can fight for their rights, but many times they cannot fight for their rights because they will come to your house at gunpoint, steal your children, threaten you. These judges will threaten you that if you don't follow their order, now law-abiding citizens would follow an order, but not when it crosses into your constitutional and human rights. Then you have to make a choice. If the choice means that your order means that I'm going to endanger my child, and I have to make that decision, do you understand what that does to a human being? And so little by little you get deteriorated emotionally, and what does this do to the country on a whole? So there's other things that have factored out of this. We've got children now that are starting to use drugs at a very young age, and I'm not just talking about what they prescribe, which they shouldn't be prescribing, but I'm talking about street drugs. And the reason why is because these children no longer either A, have an identity because they've been taken from biological family, or B, they've been forced to live with an abuser. So because they're going through this, they turn to drugs, and this is why we see the opioid crisis that we see, meth, heroin, in the most safest of towns now. You've got like 1 and 2 of every 3 homes where there's cocktails of serious drug use that lead to death. And I just want to let you know that also when I spoke, New York State is number 5 in the nation for child trafficking. Hudson Valley is number 1 in the nation, where I quote Senator Serino's bill. And the Child Advocacy Center out of Poughkeepsie, Dutchess County, even admits that 88% of children are trafficked through CPS and group homes. So when I speak on behalf of this, I'm not just speaking for New York, I'm speaking for the entire country that this is happening, but who makes the orders that move the children? Moving somebody against their will is trafficking, whether it be sex trafficking or just trafficking, okay? Who makes the orders? These family court judges. And who has to go? And it's happening to our seniors too. They're doing the same things to our senior citizens as well. So we're here today at the Attorney General's office before you, which would be representative of Letitia James, that we are putting on notice that we want the state of New York, we want it immediately shut down. We want the family courts shut down, audited. I will happily go through every single case myself, since I do anyway. I will go with my team, and we will fix these families the way they need to be fixed. We need to repair our families. We need to restore our families. We need recompense for the financial damages. Families, millionaires have lost businesses. They've lost homes. They've lost cars, vacations. They've lost college futures because they had to spend all their money on these bar members. Speaking of bar members, there's no such thing as a licensed attorney. I think I spoke on that a little bit. Schwar versus Board of Examiners and many, many other laws.
And the 13th Amendment.
And the 13th Amendment, which was removed, actually says that there's no such thing as a licensed attorney. So they've lied to us about that all these years, thinking you need an attorney to go to court, you need an attorney, but it's a fake court, it's a fake bar membership. And so we are suffering. We are the people that are suffering from this, and our generations to come are suffering. Our children are suffering, and this is the effects and what has manifested from what they've done to us all these decades.
And there was actually a public defender out of Ulster County that would not speak to my client with me. He looked right at me and he says, I'm not going to speak in front of her because that's not even a real thing. An advocate's not even a real thing. And I looked right at him.
An advocate.
Excuse me? I said, your license to practice law isn't real either. I said, so if
Right.
I'm not real, then you're not.
Well, Jerome, his name is Jerome Dykeman, I believe. Yes, Jerome Dykeman
He's a very smart,
said, don't listen to Francesca, to one of my clients, who I actually saved from going to jail, by the way. He couldn't save him, but I did.
Yeah.
Mrs. Fake here saved him. He's not in jail, but this man was actually going to help the court put him in jail. Mind you, he said that, I don't listen to her. So he said, well, here, I'd like you to listen to something that she teaches on so you can see if what she's saying is true or not. He goes, no, I don't want to listen to anything she has to say. So then how can you make an educated decision if somebody's speaking the truth or not? But this is what they do. They manipulate the people that they counsel, and they either, if you're appointed a fake, I call them a public pretender. If you're appointed one, you get to meet them seconds before you walk into the court. You're not prepared. You're not educated. You're no informed consent, which is a serious violation. By the way, you cannot even consent even if you're informed. That's under our Constitution, to give your life to anybody. We're free.
Truly,
We're free.
In our court system, and I've said this a lot to Fran, and many times I've said it on live. When we walk into a family court, did we walk in like this, with no direction, not knowing what's going on? Yes, because they did not walk in and hand us the information. We are supposed to
What are the damages that you'll
put
receive?
on record informed consent of what could happen in that court, and not a single person gets that accommodation. The court, there's no due process there. There's no jury of your peers. It's just whatever they feel like doing.
No evidence-based practices, no evidence is put in on a real court of record. Hearsay is taken as fact. Mental health examinations by their own doctors, so they can say you have mental health issues, and when you don't. But if you go purchase $5,000 for your own doctor and there's nothing wrong with you, they say that is not correct, and they toss it out. There's never anybody there to hold them accountable. I want to, aside from advocates like ourselves, who actually sits inside these courtrooms and watches the insanity and absurdity that goes on inside these buildings. So we don't want it open starting.
Courts, so you can't have.
Well, wait a second. No. They're called public courts, but they're private. How can you be both?
Right.
So, and so that's why we're here today, to tell our Attorney General, Letitia James, that we're putting her on notice now, and that we have, you should see how many people watching right now, and this will, and also that we are putting her on notice that we want the courts immediately audited, starting immediately, effective immediately. Today is January 8th, 2020, and this is Punish for Protecting Incorporated. I'm a nonprofit 501c4. It's the number 4, by the way, and that's okay. And no, because I'm putting it on notice now, and I'm, making this. We're here among witnesses. We only need 2 witnesses for this to be. This is public record, and this is before the real court, which is the public. We are the real court. We are the people. We are taking our rightful place right now, and we would like her to start her job immediately, effective immediately, because we could even do that, but this is a health and safety risk to the state of New York. It's endangering our families, our future,
the future of our state, our country, our government, everything, I really believe hinges on stopping this abuse. It has to.
Future generation.
I look at the kids that are in the middle of this, not just my own, but I've seen so many mothers cry. I've seen fathers cry.
It's devastating.
I've seen them torn apart, just like I know exactly where they are, because that's where I have been. And we cannot fix the system.
No, it's not fixed. It's not reformable.
It's totally broken.
It's illegal on its face, so it shouldn't be repaired.
So if our system is completely illegal and they're trying to step on our rights and our God-given rights as to be human beings, to be a parent, to give life, they're taking that right from you the minute they tell you you can't see your children. But those judges weren't there when your children were created. They weren't there when they came into this world. So how do they get the right to tell you how to raise when who would have to be there with them?
That's right. These are protective rights, and they're also these judges. Like I said, if there's no evidence-based trials, if there's no accountability, I've been everywhere. I have literally been. It's 12.5 years I've been doing this. 3 years as Punished for Protecting, and prior to that, 9 years as National Coalition for Family Court and CPS Reform. Before I realized this isn't reformable. How is it possible that literally millions of families across the country, rich, poor, black, white, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter what label, it doesn't matter their social or economic statuses, are complaining about the same things, and that they're being ignored? And so we no longer want to be ignored. And how is it possible that everybody tells me, the Attorney General's office, the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA, it doesn't matter where we've been, the public integrity, what a joke. Why is it that they all tell us we have no jurisdiction? I'll tell you why. It's very simple. They put themselves into business without our consent. They usurped our authority as the people. Nobody voted it in. And so technically, nobody really has authority over them because they're really a non-existent entity. They're buildings that are running on American soil as a foreign agent, so are the Bar Association, and the reason why they have no actual accountability is because they're not supposed to be here in the first place. Guess what that makes them? Treason. And so if it's treason, it can't be open, and it cannot open from this point forward ever again. It has to be shut down, held accountable, and these judges like Judge McGinty, Judge Mizell, Judge Savona, Judge Breslin, Judge McGuire, Judge Brown, Judge Pearl, Judge Greenberg, Judge Gito, Judge Posner, all of them so-called judges that they're not, they're administrators, they need to be immediately handcuffed, and we need to have a citizen's arrest, and they need to be put in the jails that Governor Cuomo is removing murderers. I guess he's making room for himself maybe, but he needs to start protecting the people because we're sick and tired of this. So that's, I think, pretty much our speech.
It is. We've come a very long way. I know I've come a very long way. I've even gone as far as to represent myself because I had three attorneys, 2 paid and 1 court appointed, and I couldn't get anywhere. And earlier last year, I went into court after a year with no contact with my children. A year. Didn't even have a phone call with my kids for a year. I went into court without anybody beside me, no attorney, no advocate, because unfortunately Fran had some car trouble, she couldn't make it. I walked in there in front of Judge McKenzie and I got my kids back early last year in March. I did that myself. And then again, I go back in and Judge Gito takes it away from me.
Well, what happened, let me say what happened to you. When she saw on the back of her son's head a gash on the back of his head, and the child and the daughter, and I overheard the whole thing, so I'm a witness to that, that the father bashed his head into the wall, and the little girl said there was blood all over the wall, Mommy, and he wasn't allowed to tell her, but she wasn't allowed near the children, so she couldn't report this for months later, a year later. And then the father threatened her with a gun, or threatened her to kill her with a gun. There's a criminal order of protection against the father. When he showed up on the property, they arrested him. The next day, that crazy judge and these crazy attorneys decided to put a protection order, so there's a criminal one to protect her and a family court one to keep her away from the children. Do you know why? Guess what? You know why? Because she reported abuse, and I see this every day. And you're not allowed to report abuse. If you report abuse, you're coaching.
That's what they've always told me. Whenever
Now, first of all,
that's their ticket.
when did they become psychologists? When did they come out of their position, their supposedly professional position, and climb into a different position as a doctor, a psychologist? When was she evaluated as coaching? What exactly is coaching, by the way? I mean, last I checked, a coach actually coaches a basketball team. A coach can coach a baseball team, but how do you coach a child when you have a gash on the back of a child's head? Did you coach that?
I'm absolutely 100% sure. I did not coach my son to grow a scar on the back of his head.
Well, what about CPS? They never looked at the head, and I actually asked the CPS caseworkers, does the child still have the same head he had last year? Because if that scar's there, then you have a problem, don't you? And they did nothing about it. And I'll give you one more example. I cannot think of the...
No evidence of child abuse. Yet,
no evidence of child abuse.
The CPS worker testified in court on record in front of Judge Gito, who is the supervising judge over our 9th Judicial District, and because he just didn't like what the situation was, I told the cops, I returned my kids to them on Friday. Under the advice of the child attorney, it'll be better for you in court, Sarah. I go in Monday and they take my kids away again.
Twice. And there's a judge, and I cannot think of his name. I wish the person was on right now, out of Staten Island, New York. There's under the Liverpool, under the Interpol rather. This mother's living in Russia. She's protected in Russia. Could you imagine? She's protected in Russia. Okay, we've become the communist country now, and she's being protected, her and her child, in Russia because he's a felony fugitive. And he's a sex offender of children. And the Staten Island judge gave him full custody. I was there to court watch that one. Gave him full custody and wants the mother to come back to the state of New York, Staten Island. To give this child, this little girl, to this father who is literally a convicted child sex offender. And this is not not one needle in a haystack. No. We have judges giving children to pedophiles that are on the record. And finally, this is a big portion of the pedophile industry that you're seeing, the child trafficking industry that you're seeing, because this is where the kids are coming from. So, okay. Now she has. All right. I told you this wasn't going to be a light subject.
No, thank you for sharing this, and
well, thank you for talking out, taking the time.
Summarize it and get it to the right people and see if there's anything we can do. Sorry for what you've been through.
Now this is the Attorney General's office, so this would be a part of public integrity, or would it be a part of like corruption? What does it say? It said it right out there that you're going after fraud. Right. This is fraud.
Yeah,
this is fraud.
We have all different bureaus, so we have a public integrity bureau.
Right. Because public integrity did nothing, just so you're aware. Public integrity, we have been complaining to them years ago. Like I said, we don't get phone calls back. We don't even get phone, I mean, aside from walking in today, and we're very appreciative of you seeing us, taking us immediately. I mean, but we don't get, it's ridiculous if you think about it. If I'm
go to DC.
Yeah, I mean, I really, as much as I respect you being here today and doing this, we need this handled. I don't want to really hear limbo. I don't want to hear red tape. I don't want to hear, call us no jurisdiction. I don't want to hear that. We have to have, we need to start seeing something handled. This is a 911 emergency.
I think what's going to start happening, parents are going to stop going into these courts and they're going to start being arrested, because really and truly they have no jurisdiction over a private matter. So, but if the parents don't show up in the courts, they're going to be arrested.
Right.
But I think they're going to start to do that because we don't want this to continue. I
don't know if you saw the size of the rally outside. Did you see the size of the rally outside?
You'd rather go to jail than have to go face them and be traumatized for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's very true, because I can't even drive past the building that's Dutchtown Family Court and without feeling anxious, or sometimes I'll just cry when I drive by there.
Judge McGinty, for example, I wrote a book. It became a bestseller twice last year. My son and I are on the cover. It's my son's story. Judge McGinty's name is in the book. Amy Ingram, a child attorney who lies about everything. She makes my son feel guilty to go, has to see her when he doesn't want to. Hold on a second. And just one second, honey. I know you want to ask about the stairs. He wants to ask about the $1 million stairs.
I want to know who's the person who was stupid enough to buy a staircase for $1 million?
Things cost money, though. You should see what I spend on child advocating, honey.
Yeah, right.
So more than that. So, but the point is that this man refuses to recuse off of my case, and they harass me constantly. They make constant CPS calls. It's a joke. It really is. They, I mean, I don't let them near my property. They constantly take me to this so-called family court constantly. I filed 70 cases of child abuse in 2016 with William Weishaupt, who is the district attorney in Ulster County District Attorney. I worked with him and compiled evidence from 70 victims at that time. Now I've got over, I think, 300 and something now victims just of McGinty alone. Okay, and you don't know, he just had a woman had a stroke. He took her children while she was in the hospital and gave the children to the father. While she was in the hospital with a stroke, with her attorney saying she's not here to defend herself. She just had a stroke. She almost had a heart attack right after that because she left the hospital practically in a gown, okay? The hospital paid her cab so she could go to the school to say goodbye to her children with a thing in her neck after an operation. I mean, this man is sick. Anthony McGinty needs off the bench immediately. He refuses to recuse from my case. They harass me constantly with frivolous litigation. I had one thing that my son was in the middle of the street talking on an Xbox at 2 o'clock in the morning in Marlboro, New York, trying to get home. My son doesn't leave my sight, okay?
And I know how to get back to my house better than she does.
Yeah, right. But 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had to be taken to court for this. I mean, insanity. And this is like, this violates our rights as far as like money and everything else. But anyway, he refuses to get off my case. I have him, like I said, in the book. I'm on TV shows. I talk about him. He refuses to get off my case, refuses. Judge DiFiore has a full report on him. I reported him in front of the New York Assembly, his name. Still refuses to get off my case. He's a narcissist and an abuser. There's no question about it. And refuses to get off my case. I deal with all of his victims, and the pattern of abuse is the same for every family. He doesn't do due diligence. He doesn't check out what's really happening in their cases. I've seen him keep loving mothers and or fathers away from their children, and mostly he seems to target women and children, mostly. I see them wink, wink, nod, nod. They all work together. They talk behind closed doors. They bring you in after. They prepare the case and tell you what they know what's going to happen before they even see you. So if you have a trial, it's all a big joke. It doesn't matter what you said. If I stood on my head and spun, versus if I sat there politely, no matter what I do, the trial is going to end exactly the way they want it to end. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So these are crimes, like I said.
You know, I feel like finally we're starting to really gain a lot of recognition, because I feel like when I started doing this, I felt like I could have stood on my head and shoot fireworks out of my butt and nobody heard what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, it was like I was just in the middle of 1,000 people screaming and nobody turned their head. You know, but now it's like finally we're opening eyes. You know, you obviously, I can see you definitely didn't know a lot of the information that we gave you, and I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, because I feel like this is our plateau. This is our step up to start really gaining the ability to change this, to stop this.
To stop it. Yeah,
I don't want to spend next Christmas without my kids again. It's been 4 years. I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to not be able to see my kids for their birthday. I don't want to let them down ever again.
Yeah. And I don't want to have to keep seeing all these families every single day not being able to take their children to the doctor, being told that you're going to jail. I have to worry about her now by January 30th if she's going to jail because she took her daughter to the doctor, okay, for something that I talked to countless pediatricians that I'm friends with. My sister's a holistic practitioner. They're like, she did the right thing. There's no other, I don't even believe this is a thing. It's what the doctors say. Okay, I have children that are sexually abused every single day, forced to live with their abuser every single day. I have to worry about my son. God forbid that they try to do something to him because of what I do to protect him every single day. It's crazy. I mean, this is insane, and it has to stop. It has to stop. So,
you never received any response to your complaint that you sent here?
I've called here repeatedly, many times I couldn't even get through, but I did like the electronic thing, I think, and then we did an actual federal lawsuit that they switched on us. They literally did a felony offense where they took our lawsuits, we had 2, through the federal court, and they literally, Letitia was served with it, she was served certified, and Como was served, everybody, and then nothing, and they literally, in the federal court, which, mind you, one of the federal judges down there was in a mental institution and is back working, okay? That's pretty scary, yeah. And they actually took our stuff and insisted that it was civil when it was filed as miscellaneous, when we want it to be miscellaneous, and that's a federal offense. You can't switch what something is when it's a legal document, and they made it civil when it was miscellaneous.
What name is the?
Mine would be Amato, Amato. And hers would be Dipper, or Dipper. She was served, Tisha James was served, and, she's not the one that switched it from miscellaneous to civil, the federal court did.
It may be, if it doesn't come up under Dipper, try my married name, because it's Weigel. I want to actually be, I can't remember what I brought it.
But, we really need McGinty off the bench immediately, because I can't even tell you, another mother ended up in the hospital right after that 1-year trial, the one that she and I both Sarah, I think you court watched the whole thing. Yes, I was only able to court watch a couple. That mother literally ended up in the hospital a couple of days later, and the other mother had a stroke. And I can go on for years.
And we didn't mention that our veterans are being targeted too.
Oh, and our veterans are being targeted
PTSD
so bad.
And all these things that.
But it doesn't make
sense. They can't be a parent.
But if they have criminal mental illness,
they're committing suicide.
Criminal mental illness is very different than obviously PTSD. PTSD is not something you can't watch or take care of your kids and do a great job. I have PTSD from what they've done. I'm able to speak before millions of people, and I'm able to court watch and work for millions of people, but when it comes to me having to be before McGinty, I'm injured. So I'm literally sick 3 days before and I'm sick 3 days after. So if I can do it strong that I am, could you imagine people that are constantly beaten, that have nobody to turn to, no advocates, nothing, what they're going through, and all they want to do is just live a normal life. We're not criminals, we're just normal people.
I don't want to spend the rest of my life fighting. And I love my kids more than I hate my ex.
Right.
This has gotten to the point where I just want to be left alone. I want to be a mom.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have any identity.
Fundamental right.
Right. I don't feel like I have the same identity I did. I am not the same person I was.
Of course not.
The day they took my children. I am a very different person, and it's been a really long, hard journey. I've met wonderful people along the way who have helped me. Thank God, when I met Fran, which actually I met her because I was in a parenting class, and a woman I met in parenting class gave me her information. So thank you, Joan Posner, because you're the one who sent me to that class.
Oh yeah, and speaking of one more thing with Anthony McGinty, which if we could get him down, we would make an example for all the other judges. If we can at least start with him. Actually, I would like to start with the one in Staten Island too, that's trying to give a child to a sex offender, but. I have like 5 or 10 like right on the top of the icing, like right on the top of the list. But Anthony McGinty, when my son's father was in jail for drug use while on probation, he gave him 4 hours on Sunday unsupervised when he came out of jail with not even one drug test. Okay, this man has been on drugs his entire life, and his brother just died of a drug overdose. So, and I didn't want my son around that. I was only doing what any normal parent would do. He arrested me, by the way. He arrested me when I didn't have an attorney at that time. So the appellate court overturned another mother who he stole her child. He overturned her case because she didn't have an attorney. The appellate did, but then they put the person right back in front of the same judge. So they're not getting accountability.
Right.
So.
There's really no due process, as you can obviously gather, and there's nobody to be held accountable for all of this, and when my kids ask
That's what everybody can call.
Mom, why can't I be with you, and they cry when they have to leave me after I see them for 1 hour a week. I have to sit here and wonder to myself, who is going to help me?
Okay, if any of you want to call from the state of New York and voice your complaints and your judges, this is who you would go to right now. I'm going to keep this up for a while here. This is who you would go to.
I want to end this. I want my children
Can you see? Can you guys see? You can also type it, maybe, if anybody wants to type it. But this is who you would, hold on.
What Gino did was
Give me a second, it'll focus.
I know this stuff. Thank you. It's nice to meet you. Over and over. Yeah. And I very much appreciate you taking your time.
I'm sorry if it's not the clearest.
Yeah. This has been something that when I met Fran, I was not the same person I'm now. I was very timid. I was really just beaten down. You know, I was like, I can't.
Okay guys, so we got a lot accomplished today. I will actually post the numbers. This is the Attorney General's office in Albany, New York. You heard what we just did. Make phone calls like crazy to this office. Make sure you're heard, and make sure that the judges in the state of New York are arrested. We want the family court abolished immediately and the judges arrested. No more money going to these people, and no more children harmed. Thank you guys. God bless you. Have a great day.